Hello everyone and welcome back to another pitch deck review live. I'm going to start doing these monthly and I'm super excited to have you here to take a look at them. So the way this works is that in the past month or so I put in a request for people to submit pitch decks and two companies did, and I'm super excited about it. So what we'll do is we'll go through them and I'll kind of talk about what I see as an investor when I'm looking at a pitch deck and give a little bit of live review. Now, this isn't like, I haven't actually looked at these decks, so I'm going in completely cold, and that's on purpose. So the reason I'm doing that is that I kind of want to give you a stream of consciousness about what I see when I'm looking at a pitch deck. And some of that might be helpful. I will definitely make some mistakes. But the whole idea of this series is to try to get you to understand how a VC might look at something and think about a pitch deck. So, let's get cracking. DroneQube is off to a strong start. I love it when a startup is able to kind of very quickly capture what they're doing. Now, there's a couple of things missing here. So if I'm clicking through a deck and I'm quickly, like the first thing I usually do as a investor is that I want to match whether a particular investment is in alignment with my investment thesis. So if I don't invest in hardware, it doesn't matter how good the startup is. If you're doing a hardware startup, I can't invest. Similarly, if I don't have anybody on staff who's an expert in medtech or in life sciences, it becomes very hard to invest in heavily regulated industries. So as an investor, the first thing I'll do is I look at a deck and I kind of go like, okay, is this roughly in the ballpark? Because if not, I don't have to spend any time on it. If I'm a early stage fund and somebody's raising $100 million, it doesn't matter how good the company is. It doesn't fit my model, and so I can't invest. So what I would have loved to see how much DroneQube is trying to raise. So it could just say pre-seed, or it could say a dollar amount or something like that, just to level set where we're at with this company. The other thing is we monitor and protect vineyards. Well, the company name has the word drone in it, so I'm going to assume that it's some sort of drone type company. And we monitor and protect vineyards. Okay, do you make your own hardware? Like, what do you do? I'm immediately starting to think in that direction. So, interest peaked. Let's see where we go with this. The problem. Okay, so those are three specific problems that the wine industry is facing, right? And so as an investor, I'm thinking, okay, are these problems worth solving? And if yes, is this a big enough market to explain why this is worth solving? So that's actually interesting. On this problem slide, they have both the problems and the impact of the problem. So there are changing weather patterns, which will cause $1 trillion loss. There is challenges with surveying, which is going to cost $50 billion in labor. And there is an increased residue in food. I'm not really sure how that translates into an impact in that way. Potential savings, it's kind of hard to wrap that into a problem statement. Having said that, I think this is actually a really good problem slide. It introduces three concepts, and hopefully the founders will have some really good context for where those numbers came from and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's a powerful problem statement. So from there, where do we go? Okay, we go to the solution. That makes a lot of sense. They've actually done the solution slide in the way I really like to see solution slides. It says, hey, to solve the problems that we talked about on the previous slide, which are these, this is one proposed solution. We're going to use aerial vigilance, we're going to use data, and I'm going to do interventions when needed, rather than when they're not needed. That's pretty solid. And so now you're starting to wrap a narrative around this, right? So you have a problem statement with like, oh, these are the problem spaces and the impacts with the problems. Then you talk about the solution. And note that they don't necessarily talk about what the specific implementation of those solutions is. So if you're saying aerial vigilance, that could mean drones, but it could also mean cameras on very large sticks. It's retro, but it works. Like a really long pole means you can do aerial photography or videography. Data-driven insights, yes, right? And they're not necessarily prescribing how that is being done. And precision intervention. Now, there's a picture of a drone here, and they're saying immediately respond to threats. But the way I'm looking at this as an investor is that this company could pivot, right? They say aerial vigilance. The idea is probably drones, but if they do it from planes or helicopters or sticks or other technology, that doesn't, for now they're agnostic. That is exciting to me because it means that as an investor, I'm seeing a team here that is like, okay, these are the ways we're thinking of solving this problem, but we could change it. If the data-driven insights are AI, great. If it's machine learning, great. If it's some sort of algorithm, also great, right? And so now we're talking about a team that clearly has some sort of sense of what the solution should be, and they can start taking stabs at how to solve it. That is a really important and helpful way to show that you have a agile team. Now from here, so they've done the problem. Then they're talking about, okay, this is the potential solutions. And now they're talking about the implementations of those solutions. So now they're talking product. And I've got to say, I don't love this slide. There's a lot of lines, there's a lot of robots and pictures, and there's a lot of text on this slide. But by and large, I think it explains something about how it's planning to do the implementation. And what they're specifically doing is like variable rate spraying. So how much gets sprayed on each individual part of this field varies based on the need. Now, where my mind goes immediately is that the company claims a 40% savings on agrochemicals and water and a 30% higher yield. Now, this involves drones, it involves watering, it involves AI, it involves all these kinds of things. Now, I'm curious if the savings and advantages of this product are higher than the 40% savings and 30% yield, right? Those are good numbers, but if the cost of this drone stuff is roughly the same, then it becomes hard to convince a farmer to pay the money to do this, right? And so as an investor, like, is this a sensible solution to this potential problem? So far, so good, but let's keep going. Okay, business model, option 1, option 2, option 3. So it looks like they have 3 different products. And I am confused. So what are the differences here? There's price differences, there's subscription differences. AI analysis, this is the same. Okay, so option 1 doesn't have thermal imaging. Option 2 does. But I'm not sure what the difference is between option 2 and 3. I'm confused. And I think that's, not very helpful. Like, if I don't immediately understand what this business model is trying to explain, then that means I feel stupid. Nobody likes to be made to feel stupid. I don't know what the differences are. Also, business models tend to be more, this is a pricing model, not a business model. The difference is that this is what you would put on your website about to sell to a customer, right? So these are the features you get, these are the way it costs, blah, blah, blah. And these are the different price points. So pricing model. What a business model would also have is like, what is the rest of this? What is the cost of delivery? What is the cost of acquiring customers? What are the other levers that make DroneQube work as a company? Because right now, this pricing model is fine. I mean, if people are willing to pay that, great. But what I don't know is how much does it cost to acquire a customer? What does it cost to build these drones? What does it cost to operate these drones? So you kind of get half the puzzle. And for a customer, this might be fine. But as an investor, I want to understand more of this business as a whole. I want to understand, okay, what are the different pieces of this puzzle that have to be true for this business to make sense? And this slide doesn't quite do the job of that. Okay, let's see where we go from here. Impact. So this, I think, is speaking to some of the EU sustainability goals, which I actually also noticed on another slide here, but it kind of snuck it past us. Up here, top right, you can see those colored boxes. And if it's very small, so I have to kind of lean in and read that. Nope, still can't read it. But I think those are sustainability goals from the various EU programs. And so it's nice to have them in there, but if you care, don't assume that everybody who reads this slide will notice what those icons mean and that they're part of sustainability goals. I think this is actually kind of a cultural difference. I was talking to somebody about this the other day. It seems like in Europe, and now I have a suspicion that this is a European startup, and we'll see if that is true or not later. But in Europe, people seem to be thinking about climate change and the environment a lot more than they do in the US in general. And these sustainability goals are, of course, part of that. And so it's an interesting piece to kind of think about who's your audience. Like most of the startups I work with are trying to raise money from US investors. And would I take it for granted that everybody knows what those icons mean? From here, we're talking about the market. So we're talking about the Turkish, EU, and US markets. And then the wider... So vineyards is the sum. Then the SAM is farms in Turkey, the EU, and the US. And then the TAM, the global market, is all the farms that are around there. Which, I mean, so now I'm presuming that this is a Turkish startup. And that's where they're starting. And I don't understand what we're sizing here, to be honest. I understand the bottom one. I understand the sum. I understand that you're trying to reach 85,000 vineyards. I don't really know how that translates into farms, because are they going to use drones to try and crop dust farms? It seems like the assumption here, if you look at the SAM and the TAM here, the TAM is about 5 times bigger than the SAM, so that makes sense. But they're also saying that the number of farms here in Turkey, the EU, and the US is 15 million farms. Now, multiply that by roughly 5, and you get to 100 million farms. And so I think the assumption here is that the revenue that this company could potentially gain per farm is the same in China and India and Uganda and Gambia as it is in the EU and the US. And I think that is a flaw in logic. I don't think that's how the market sizing is going to work. The only reason I'm mentioning this is that as an investor, I'm doing several things, right? I'm seeing, is this a big enough market? Is it worth me investing here? And does it make sense for us to actually place a bet here? However much they're raising, I need to be able to get an outsized return on investment, potentially. That is one part of it. The other part of it is, are these founders sophisticated founders who understand the market dynamics in the market they're about to enter? And so this is my first little red flag over here. If the assumption here is that, I haven't done the math, but it seems like that's a linear reduction from the TAM to the SAM, I don't think that's correct. And that makes me wonder whether these founders have understood what the global market dynamics are for what they're trying to do. I also think that there's a pretty big difference in general between vineyards and the value of those crops and other farms. And so I would probably want to talk to these founders a little bit about this slide. But yeah, so this market slide has me like, I don't know if these are believable founders. So I would have probably tidied that one up a little bit. Next, we're talking about traction. They're saying that they have a patent application and trademark registration, that they did Deep Tech Pioneer by Hello Tomorrow. I don't know what that means or what the outcome is there. Robot drone interaction completed. I don't know what that means. And that they raised a pre-seed investment from Sente. Great. And that at the tail end of last year, that they were in an accelerator and then started doing a proof of concept at a winery. Okay, so great. And thinking about what is happening here, this is not a great traction slide. And the reason I'm mentioning that is that, sure, a patent application is great, but I would like to understand more about what they're patenting and what the idea is there. The Deep Tech Pioneer and the Robot Drone Interaction Completed doesn't mean anything to me. Like, I need a voiceover here, which is fine if this is a voiceover deck. But often what you actually want is to make sure that the deck can stand by itself. And right now, this deck doesn't really do that. I don't know what Deep Tech Pioneers is. Like, it sounds like that is some sort of a technical breakthrough, which could potentially be traction, but I don't know what that is or why it's important to this company. They said they raised a pre-seed investment. That's great, but that doesn't really... Like, what that tells me is that they managed to convince somebody to invest in them. What I really want to see here is revenue, if there is revenue. They say they've done a proof of concept. I would have loved to know if they charged for that proof of concept. And the other thing that I would like to see here is, What is the real hard things that you have done that has de-risked parts of this company or made it more valuable? Now, a patent application could potentially do that, right? So that could potentially be traction. Having a trademark, whatever, that's something you do as a company. That's not real traction. Deep tech pioneer, the other stuff, I don't know what it means. Getting into an accelerator, I don't know this accelerator. Maybe they're great, maybe they're not. Again, like, there's not really any traction here that makes me say, yes, definitely, they've de-risked part of the business. I'm ready to invest. The most interesting here is the proof of concept. But they haven't said anything about what they were testing for, whether the tests were successful, or what's happening here. It's also pretty recent, so maybe it's a test that's in progress. But yeah, all of that makes me kind of a little unsure. Like, this feels fuzzy to me. Okay, next. A competitive advantage. Okay, so the company is talking about the various technological advantages it has over its competitors. I think that is really helpful. I think that's a really clever way of presenting a competitive landscape. This is really where DroneQube is carving out its deserving to be in this space. Now, do we need 0.05 meter of resolution? I don't know. Do we need 3-minute inspection intervals? I don't know. Like, it isn't immediately obvious to me why these competitive advantages are advantages. So what I would have liked to see is, what does that translate into? Presumably, no pilot required means cost saving. Presumably, 3D maps means, I don't know what that means. I don't know why I care. Why does it matter if something is inspected every 3 minutes? Like, do any pests happen fast enough that something needs to be tested every 3 minutes? I don't know. So I'm curious, like, why are these things on this competitive advantage slide? And it would probably be helpful for me to understand those things in order to really understand two things. One, are these competitive advantages real? Like, is this worth doing for farmers? But also, have the founders on this slide figured out what are the real selling points that make their products stand out from the competition and give them a fighting chance? Marketing and sales strategy. So this is the go-to-market slide, effectively. And this is not a marketing or sales strategy. Like, strategic partnerships, yes, that is a way to go to market. Yes, if you manage to partner with those companies, you can probably do a lot of sales. But now I want to know, okay, how likely is that? Like, does this team have a huge amount of experience and inroads with these companies? Have they already got partnerships? Like, are there early conversations happening? Like, this part of the slide doesn't tell me that they have a working marketing and sales strategy. Organic labels traction, that's not a go-to-market strategy. That is a, like if you stick a USDA organic label on a wine bottle, that is like a tiny step towards selling that wine bottle. That is not a sales and marketing strategy for DroneQube that I can see. So what I need him to do here is to connect the dots for me. Like, why is this important? Freemium analytics. No. Like, that is one thing that you can use to make a sale, or that's a thing you can use to do marketing, but it doesn't inherently explain to me how they're going to get, like, how are you going to find your customers, how are you going to reach your customers, and how you can convince them to buy. Like, this does not say any of those things. And so basically what this company is showing me here is that it doesn't have a sales and marketing strategy, and like that they probably don't know how they're going to sell this product. That's okay, potentially, but that flags a pretty big red flag for me, because, and so now as an investor, I'm like, hey, does this make sense? Is this still a company that makes sense investing in? Are they early stage enough that they don't really have to have their sales strategy figured out? And if so, what does that mean to my ability to invest in it? And the other piece of it is, are they, like, do they need to have this figured out? If they do, then this slide is a pretty big red flag. Okay, from there we talk about the team slide. Now, this team slide is pretty hard to read for me. The italic, thin, light gray text is a little bit tricky. So what do I see when I look at this slide? They have two co-founders on there, an AI lead and R&D lead. DroneQube is the second startup. Okay, what was the previous startup in, though? Like, it's great that they have startup experience, right? That means that some of the challenges that they're facing, they know what's coming down the pipe. 10 years of experience in robotics is great, but naming that something is your second startup and then not telling me what the first startup is a pretty big red flag. What I want to see is a team that has incredibly deep understanding in the very specific space they're going to go in. And what I'm seeing here is a team that has robotics experience, mechanical engineering experience, and a AI team leader who's done agri-tech projects. I don't know what that means. Like, have they delivered this kind of product before? Have they, etc. So this is not a very convincing team slide. I'm not seeing anything here that makes me go, oh my God, yes, I have to invest in this company. Remember that as an investor, you see tons and tons of companies. And so sometimes that means that you see companies where the team that walks in through the door has like 15 years of robotics at Google. My co-founder was the head of technology at Monsanto. And the third co-founder runs a huge amount of vineyards as a technical consultant to deal with trouble. Like this is we have the technologist, we have the solution expert in the Monsanto person, and we have the domain expert in the person who is a consultant that solves vineyard problems. Like, that would be a perfect team. And so as an investor, I would pause here and think, okay, if I thought that this was a good idea for a company and I were to assemble a team to build this company, what would that team look like? And if I then glance over at the team slide and it's basically a slam dunk, I'm like, oh, this is the dream team. These are exactly the people I would have put together to build this company. That's very exciting. This slide doesn't tell that story. I'm not saying that isn't the case, right? It's very possible that this team actually has all the skills that they need to build this. But, I don't think that this slide tells the story. The other challenge is there's no LinkedIn link. So I can't quickly click and do a little search and like, okay, what did Murat do before? What was his previous startup? 28 patents pending. Well, if none of these patents have been granted, that's not a great sign. Like, getting a patent pending, like, you can do that pretty easily. You can just submit something. Getting patents granted is where that's where the litigation and the getting it through the patent system is the hard part. And so actually this team gives me pause for thought. The team isn't a slam dunk. As an investor, I would have to look at this team in a lot more detail and go, okay, what is it about this team that makes this the right company to bet on? Like, even if I believe that this is a great market, even if I believe that this is a great product, is this the team that's going to take my $3 million I'm about to invest and potentially turn that into 300 million? And if that isn't like a hell yes, if I don't look at this team and go like, yes, I have a lot of faith in this, then it actually becomes pretty hard to get to a place of believing that this company is worth betting on. Now, the way to fix that is by having extraordinary traction. And what the traction means in this case, if you don't have revenue yet, is like, show me that your product works. Show me that farmers want to buy this and apply this to their farms and that you can turn this into a profitable business. Now, if these guys had a whole bunch of revenue, then the team doesn't matter so much, right? Is it a mediocre team? Who cares? If they can figure it out, they can deliver the product, they can convince customers to buy, and they are turning this into a profitable business, like, who gives a damn if the team is mediocre, right? They figured it out. Okay, revenue forecast. This is interesting. I like graphs that go up and to the right, but I would have to have a whole lot of conversations with this team to figure out what are the underpinning metrics here. If by 2026 you're only planning to do $6.2 million worth of revenue, I am worried that this is not venture scale, right? If it takes 3 years to get to 6 million, I'm a little worried. The other thing I'm scared of here is that you see that this is linear growth. In 2025, the company is planning to do 3.3 million. If it were to double, that would be 6.6, but it's not quite doubling. So even in its projections, this company is saying that in 2025 to 2026, it's not It's not doubling, right? I want to see exponential growth. I want to see a company that is on a trajectory towards $100 million worth of revenue. And this slide doesn't tell that. First year, sure, you're trying to figure stuff out. That's fine. Asking user proceeds. Okay, so this company is actually... Okay, now I'm confused. Okay, I'm unconfused again. So the company is saying that in 2024, they are planning to spend $700,000, make $200,000 worth of sales, and they're going to raise $500,000. This is a very uncommon way of doing asking use of proceeds. And I also see a 2026 in the background of this slide for some reason. Don't really know what that means. But like I would just lose the sales and need. Just say looking for $500,000. Make it simple. And then in the financial models, you can break out how much you're doing in sales. Now, what isn't great here is that this is broken down as a percentage. I like that they're spending 2/3 on R&D. That is a right amount of money to spend on R&D in a early stage startup. I like that their sales and marketing and operations and legal are relatively low. I have a whole separate talk about the asking user funds. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but don't use percentages, use milestones. Roadmap, proof of concept completion in July. Okay, so this test that we talked about that started at the tail end of last year, the test actually continues all the way into July. That wasn't clear to me. So having started a test, great. You've gotten it to a point that you can do a test, but it means that as an investor, I don't really know whether your product works yet, and nor do you. Now they're only raising $500,000, so maybe this is just kind of like that. I could still invest. This is still a very high risk investment. Okay, August, September. Preparing for expansion to the EU. BVLOS waivers. I don't know what that means, so maybe spell that out. Autonomous ground vehicle. Okay, I don't know why we need a ground vehicle. I thought we were doing stuff with drones. So now I'm missing something. Like, okay, they just sold me that drones were the right way to solve this, but now you also need a ground vehicle. My sense is that having a tighter use of funds slide with like, we're raising $500,000, with that $500,000, we're going to accomplish these 3 goals. Once we have these 3 goals, that unlocks these next things. We're going to do these 3 goals by these dates, that kind of thing. So it's about SMART goals. Again, I have a whole separate talk about this, so I'll link it in the thingy-majig below. But yeah, this leaves something to be desired. Okay, so what I do like about this here is that there is a reminder of what this company does. We have bases, we have monitors, we grow and protect. We harness robotics and drone technology to safeguard crops. All fantastic. Lose the QR code. Like, no investor is going to point their phone at a screen to figure out what's even behind that. It's a, like, don't do that. You have the email address up at the top. That's pretty much all you need. Okay, so overall, I think that this company will probably struggle to raise money for a couple of reasons. One, I don't know if the market is big enough. The market sizing slide wasn't great. The financial projection is a little timid, and the team doesn't shout, "Wow, this is the right team." And so for those 3 reasons, unless there was something in this deck that really jumped out at me, I would have probably turned down this investment. And so I think as the founders of this company, you have an opportunity to think about, okay, what is the story I need to tell in order to really explain that, yes, this is a rapid growth company and we have the right team to do it, and these are the right solutions for the problems that we're outlining. So yeah, I would go back and take a look at those. So Seatext is a startup that loves text, apparently. AI marketing tools enhances website conversions with a 1-minute installation process. Cloudflare, but for content across millions of websites. Okay, so this is a lot of text, guys. A lot of text for the first slide. But it does a couple of good things. One, it's an AI marketing tool. Great. That puts this in the space that I wanted to take a look at. And it says Cloudflare, but for content. I know what Cloudflare is, and so this gives me enough of context to kind of go, okay, I think I understand what this company would do. That's actually a pretty good starting slide. I would lose almost all the words here, but other than that, yeah, it's a pretty decent start. It's a team of doers. Okay, again, it's a wall of text here, but on the bright side, they have pictures and they have links to their LinkedIn profiles, which I do enjoy. I don't know why it's important to name people's ages. I also don't know what these people's job titles are. And so that's actually kind of important. Like, I want to understand why these two people are on the slide. Presumably it's CEO and CTO. Presumably they're both co-founders. But I don't know that. I'm on slide 2, presented with the team slide. Normally what that would mean for me is that this team thinks that it's an incredible team. Let's fact check that. So it is a AI marketing tool. So what I would be looking for in a team is, do they have marketing experience? 20-year background with online marketing, CRO, and tech, including roles as marketing director at Procter & Gamble and Visa, and MD at a bunch of startups. You know what? I buy it. This founder has at least got the time experience and has done some startups, has grown a bunch of stuff, presumably is expert customer part of this team. Great. The other person is a skilled JavaScript developer with 7 years of experience, has successfully completed 25 projects at Grupo Sinte. Okay, I have no idea what Grupo Sinte is. I don't know what successfully completing a product is. And, JavaScript developers are not, they're expensive, but they're not hard to find. There's like almost everybody who does front-end development knows JavaScript. And so I don't really know if this description has the impact that this company intends. This isn't a hell yes slide for me in terms of a team. But maybe it's good enough. I don't know. Okay, problem overview. Okay, so again, there's an enormous block of text here, which I get why you would be tempted to do that, but I think bringing this to life in a different way would be helpful. So problem overview. The vast majority of the websites are eager to enhance their conversion rates, an extremely critical performance metric, but are hindered by lack of expertise and effective strategies or even time to do it. This represents a significant market opportunity. Okay, reading the rest here, A/B testing, CRO. Okay, so this is really all about turning websites into better converting websites. Great. Maybe that's all you have to say. Like this, there doesn't have to be nearly this much text. It's also kind of weird that there's a bullet point there, but there's only one bullet point. I don't know. Okay, next, current market gap. Larger players turn to specialized agencies and CRO marketers for solutions. This option is utilized by a mere 0.3% of all websites. The remaining 99.3% of the market represent a vast untapped opportunity. Okay, well, again, why so many words? We don't need... I think this could be reduced to 2 bullet points. 99.7% don't use this, and we are unlocking that to a brand new market segment. I think that's all I have to say. Okay, Seatext. I don't know what... So this is interesting. This slide is labeled. It says market gap. This slide is not labeled. So simply install Seatext AI and watch as your website's conversion rate begins to grow automatically. Utilizes AI to intelligently create and revise content, then applies advanced A/B testing to analyze and constantly refine content. Okay, so basically it is dynamically generated content for websites. Say that. This is very wordy for what we're trying to convey here. And so actually this is the product slide or the solution slide. Give me a hint. Put product at the top. Save me the mental capacity to figure out what I'm trying to figure out here. Okay, what can AI do to improve conversion rates? We've developed a platform, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so the promise here is that what can AI do to improve conversion rates? I would love to see numbers here. How effective is this? But this slide doesn't really talk about that. So don't love that. Okay, so the 3 AIs we are developing. AI 1, AI improves conversion rate automatically. Okay, so this is good. Again, there's way too much text on this slide, but over here, the conversion rate 1.3 to Seatext conversion rate, if they can back that up with a number of experiments that they've run to show that this actually works, that is incredible, right? That is a really good selling point, and it shows that the technology works. That's pretty exciting. Now I'm a little bit excited. I'm starting to get what this company is trying to do. It's a different way of telling the story, but tripling the conversion rate is very good. AI landing page text to Google searches. In real time, Seatext adapt landing pages to align with Google search requests, optimizing for user keywords. So I don't know if that is possible. Like a while ago, we lost the ability to see what people were Googling when they came to our sites, I think, if I don't misremember. And so now I'm curious if this is real, and I would love to see a demo, right? So now I'm like, okay, like show this to me, show me this in action, and show me that this works. Okay, AI translates allowing to sell globally. Okay, yeah, translating content is great. That's a great use for AI. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Although now I'm a little bit worried because these feel like pretty different products or pretty different use cases for these products. Like a company that is struggling to get custom content on their site for Google searchers, or the company that is trying to do customized A/B tested text for sales pages, doesn't necessarily have the same problem with international sales. So now I'm a little, I don't know. I'm not fully seeing what this company is trying to do and why. Okay, why do we make 3 AI products on one platform? Okay, great. That was literally just a thing I said I wasn't sure about, so I'm glad they're addressing this. These products are essentially the same AI, just with slight repackaging. Okay, great. So they have one product that has 3 different use cases, and they're trying to do all 3 of them. Great. There's a synergy between the products, same audience, same marketers. Great. And we are currently in search of our product market fit. Okay, great. That is honest. They have a solution in search of a problem. And so that is pretty high risk for a startup, but it also means that they have different ways of looking at how to actually start selling this thing. I think that's really cool. So again, do we need this much text? Almost certainly not. But I like the honesty, and I like that they're like, hey, we figured this thing out. We want to try and see, like, raise this flag and see who salutes kind of thing. Who are our clients? We believe there are 3 types of clients who are interested in our product: marketing teams, website owners, marketing teams outside the US who want a global approach. Sure. That doesn't really answer how you're going to find or sell to those companies. And if this is a marketing company, I would have liked to see a much tighter target audience and all that sort of thing. So again, little red flag, not really sure like why the marketing isn't better for this marketing company, basically. Who is not our clients? Okay, that's not really English, but we don't target small business startups. If a company can't afford a $50 monthly plan, it's not our focus. I don't know, dude. I'm paying lots of $50 monthly plans as my single person consultancy. So I'm not sure if that's the price point. Like, I don't understand why that $50 monthly plan explains the market size thing. We don't target high level CRO experts. Okay, fine. The experts do the expert thing. You're aiming at the bottom end of the market. That's fine. And we're not focusing on clients who require a non-self-service approach. Okay, so they want to focus on scale. I think there's probably a better way of telling the story than a vaguely outlined client and a vaguely outlined not client. But I get where they're going with this, and as a narrative tool, this could actually work. How do we target them? Okay, this was the thing I complained about earlier. See, I like this. I get to complain about something, and then the answer comes immediately. How do we target them? LinkedIn for marketers, Facebook for marketers. Okay. So this is a problem. But the way I think about slides is that if you have a headline that is a promise and the rest of the slide has to fulfill this promise, how do we target them? This explains the various products, but not how you're actually going to target them. So now I hope the next slide is about, no, it's not. Okay, so here there's a broken promise. The promise is, how do we target them? And the answer would be, okay, for this customer segment, we target them with this, and it's going to have this customer acquisition cost, and that makes sense to us. That would be the way to answer this slide. And good marketers know this, right? This is all about it's a funnel strategy. This doesn't really talk about any of that. And so now I'm a little suspicious. Like, okay, this is a company that is for marketers, aimed at marketers, but it doesn't seem to do its own marketing very well. That seems like a red flag. Okay. Maximize your customer value and revenue. One AI product sells others. Okay, so I think what they're talking about here is a land and expand strategy. So they land the customer and then upsell them with other products. That's pretty straightforward. There's absolutely no need to have this many words to explain that. But sure, the problem is we haven't really talked about how we're going to find them once yet. So that's still a missing piece of the puzzle. Next, Seatext pricing strategy. Okay, so this company got it right. They're talking about only pricing. They're not pretending that this is a business model, which I do appreciate. Okay, our MVP is live on 200 platforms, including major integrations like HubSpot and WordPress. Quick setup, takes 40 seconds to install on WordPress. Now I want to know how many customers they have. So now I hope they have a lot of customers, and I hope that the next slide is a traction slide. Okay, Optimizely, Weglot, HubSpot. Okay, so this is a competition landscape, and they say that the market is larger than $1 billion. Great, sure, I'll believe that for this one. Investment opportunity. Okay, they are raising money on a $500,000 safe with a $5 million cap and a 30% discount with 35% already secured. Okay, so normally I wouldn't recommend putting the terms of a financing instrument on a slide unless you have a lead investor. Now, they say that they have 35% already secured, so that is what, $150,000. Maybe that's okay. But if they're hoping for a lead investor to come in, then they will do the negotiating, right? And so at that point, what's on the slide is irrelevant, right? This is going to get negotiated. The challenge is that this company is actually making the same mistake as the previous company, which is they're trying to use percentages as a proxy for how they're going to spend the money. 70% of expenditures are going to marketing. Okay. But as far as I can tell, this is not a growth stage company. So that is a huge amount allocated to marketing. I want to know, like, this is basically saying, okay, we're ready to accelerate, but this slide deck so far hasn't told me that this company is ready to accelerate. Like this big red flag here. I want to see traction. I want to see that they have understood how they're going to do marketing and sales. And this deck hasn't told that. Now, with most founders, I'd be like, okay, well, let's talk about this. Like, if you're going to spend this much money on marketing, how do you know, or like, what are your experiments? How do you know it's going to work? What is your, like, how do you get this done? Well, this is a marketing startup. This should be their home territory. This should be the thing they're best at in the world. Saying that they want to spend $400,000 on marketing and without telling me what the plan is there, that's pretty scary. Okay. The company also has a financial outlook. I could spend a lot more time on this. I don't have enough time to do that, but this is actually a pretty sensible way of looking at your finances. This is the kind of slide I would spend a lot of time on to kind of really get under the skin of this company, how it works, what's working, what's not working, all that kind of thing. Okay. Don't miss this opportunity to invest in the next Cloudflare. It's bold to say that you're going to be the next Cloudflare, but you have to be bold to run a startup. So I kind of like it. So overall, this is a company that's hard to build conviction around because they are raising money largely for growth, hence spending it on marketing. But it's unclear to me how much of this product is built. I don't know how many customers they have. I don't know how much revenue they have coming in. I don't know that they know to find new customers. I don't know what the plan is for getting those new customers. And so this feels like an extremely high risk investment without further conversation. I don't know if this is a slam dunk team. And so what I'm finding myself doing is like, ooh, like if this is a space I'd be interested in, if I think that, hey, there is a future in this world where AI dynamically updating websites is a part of the future, then maybe I'd have a conversation with them. But we definitely have to talk about, okay, how far along is this product? There's definitely some stuff that we need to look at here, but I think there's the way this story is told and the way that the pitch deck looks and all that kind of thing doesn't fill me with confidence. And so, like, if I were working with this startup as a coach, I'd be like, okay, let's rip this apart. You get to have 10 words per slide. How do we tell this story as simply as possible? Have an easier to read version of this as an operating plan. And if you're going to spend 70% of your money on marketing, let's talk about where you're going to spend it. Oh yeah, if you want your own pitch deck reviewed, we have a AI-powered deck review service. It's hire.pub/AI. It's a charity donation, and we'll run it through the AI. It's very, very good at finding shortcomings and challenges with slide decks. So it's the easiest, quickest way to get like a really in-depth report on how to do it. I also do coaching. I also do all sorts of other stuff. So feel free to reach out about that. Thank you so much to DroneQube and to Seatext for submitting your decks. I hope this was helpful. I hope I wasn't too rude and terrible to you. And on that note, I will say farewell. Thank you all for coming, and Happy New Year.